What if I told you your identity could be stolen from a court? Not a data breach, not a hacker, a public docket in your own civil lawsuit.
My name is Lauren Andersen. I'm an entrepreneur, a mother, and a survivor. If I look overexposed, it's because I am in more than one way. For 13 years, I have fought giant healthcare company Northwell Health and health insurance provider United Healthcare in court. But that war came with an unexpected wound from the flank: identity theft facilitated by the New York State court system.
You've heard of doxing, maliciously publishing someone's private information online. Docket doxing is when that happens in court cases, often using your medical records posted publicly by lawyers. In New York, this started about 10 years ago when electronic case filing became widespread. What information might be exposed? For example, your confidential, often embarrassing medical history, including mental health and substance abuse records. Controversial procedures like abortions and gender transition, social security numbers, financial and employment info, business intelligence, sex and intimacy, prescriptions, children's names, dates of birth, criminal records, marriage and divorce records. Firearm ownership, all of it can end up in court files, usually dumped there by reckless defense attorneys, and often full of errors and omissions, speculation, and illegible text. And what if you or your documents come from other states or countries that have more restrictive privacy laws, like the European Union? Clerks revealed that they do some record keeping about how many viewers visit your files, but you are unlikely to find out details without a court order. It's a recipe for chaos and identity theft, which can affect both you and your loved ones. Your information can be downloaded in seconds, anywhere in the world, and multiply like proverbial rabbits.
Mr. Plaintiff, I find that you are unemployed, a closeted homosexual, alcoholic, taking antidepressants and Viagra, and probably have cancer, but I can't completely read this document. How do you plead?
In one of my e-filed cases, I asked the judge repeatedly to seal a confidential deposition transcript. The delay made it embarrassingly public for weeks. It was only my persistence that enabled the transcript to be taken off the docket. Fortunately, paper cases are not as visible as electronic ones. One of my cases has contained dozens of pages of my hospital records for more than a decade. My credit rating has never recovered from the resulting identity theft, even though I did manage to get my social security number redacted by visiting the county clerk. Is there any point in locking the barn door after the horse has bolted? Yes, because if you found your wallet on the sidewalk after a thief took it, you'd pick it up and put it away if you could, not leave it for another thief to find.
If the perpetrators of docket doxing are not defense attorneys, they might be the overworked clerks, or even self-represented plaintiffs making honest mistakes. But in many cases, it is intentional, a malicious tactic to harass or smear a plaintiff. A signed HIPAA authorization only allows the defense access to your records. It doesn't allow them to plaster your privileged information all over the public arena. And therapy notes are not discoverable, even with a court order. A confidential source at a major New York newspaper that we'll call Scam Day told us that the paper hadn't written about docket doxing in the 5 years since we informed them, because they frequently get material for their stories from the court dockets, and they didn't want the private information to be sealed. Other media outlets also showed us deliberate indifference, likely for the same reason.
New York's e-court system is easy to access. It requires no password, no account, and no mutual consent. Anyone can view your case docket from their couch or their phone in minutes or even seconds. As a test in 2020, We asked my 16-year-old son to find a given plaintiff's records using only her name. It took him 5 minutes. There are too many parties involved in the process, such as defense attorneys, plaintiffs' attorneys, and county clerks, who don't always agree, and no automatic screening software that we are aware of to prevent errors and omissions in e-filing. This would be a perfect problem for AI to solve, but to the best of our knowledge, the state hasn't yet made that investment.
With your identity information, a doxer has vast powers. He can open bank accounts, use your insurance, commit credit fraud, or worse, defame and extort you using your health records.
The federal HIPAA privacy law protects medical information, but a federal judge, Gary Brown, called my application to protect doxed medical records frivolous. Then he went back to his hobby of writing books about magic tricks.
Magicians can spot fraud and deceit better than anyone alive. If your job is to recognize truth, study deception.
But 2 years ago, Northwell and its transcription company PJ&A spilled the private information of millions of patients, resulting in a class action lawsuit.
So Letitia James has announced the medical transcription company Perry Johnson and Associates experienced a data breach affecting nearly 9 million patients.
And last year, another class action resulted from a Northwell employee hiding cameras in bathroom smoke detectors.
Sanjay Prasad hid his face after being indicted for allegedly recording hundreds of other people in bathrooms.
Apparently, my warning was not so frivolous after all. The New York court system's chief administrative judge told me recently, court records are presumptively public. However, judges routinely ignore HIPAA and other applicable statutes. This can result in significant cost, effectively a tax on plaintiffs. Typically, the plaintiffs and defense lawyers make a deal about which records can be displayed, but sometimes they do not. A new health privacy law passed in the New York State Legislature in January, but as of this month, the governor still hadn't signed it. Since the courts ignored existing laws for years, why will another new law improve the situation? The court system is engaging in discrimination. It must find a compromise between its need for disclosure and plaintiffs' need for privacy, and eliminate the paywall for plaintiffs to fix privacy problems. And realize that some subcultures and religious groups within the U.S. have different ideas than others about privacy.
Wait, I was quoted in whose medical records? Published where?
In more than 20 cases, a Metro New York law firm with over 100 attorneys e-filed plaintiffs' medical records in unredacted form, meaning that confidential information was not concealed. This firm's conduct was particularly bad, but it is not the only law firm engaging in such practices. This is a pattern, one affecting people like you and me. Most of the plaintiffs we talked to had no idea their medical records were on the public dockets. They had not checked, and neither had their attorneys. The court's e-filing system is effectively a mule or delivery drone hired by defense attorneys to transport contraband to the audience, including across state and country borders. The contraband might be false information about you, which becomes defamatory when disseminated. If it is information about your sex life, it becomes pornography starring you. Shockingly, New York e-court's anti-harassment and cyberbullying rules are not even as good as those of big social media platforms like X, YouTube, and TikTok. As a test, we posted an excerpt from one of the docs medical records as part of a video on YouTube. YouTube took it down in a few days.
Content or behavior intended to harass, threaten, or bully others is not allowed on YouTube. Neither is maliciously recording someone without their consent or revealing someone's private personal information.
Even though the court system and the attorneys failed to take down the same records in 5 years.
Where did they dig up that information? From the litter box?
A plaintiff called Stacy Sullivan, who was a former nurse at Northwell, sued the company for false imprisonment because she was involuntarily hospitalized for 2 days in the same hospital where I had been.
North Shore did something horribly wrong to me, and I was not going to let them get away with it.
It was a pretense from day one. It was predetermined. It was to support their own corporate interests and protect their flank.
In June 2019, A Nassau County Supreme Court jury awarded Stacy $3.5 million in damages. Stacy died in February 2022. I discovered 3 years later that her mental health records were still on the electronic docket, where they had been posted by defense attorneys. The similarity between Stacy and me? We were both whistleblowers. Her attorneys said the hospital falsely imprisoned her in an attempt to keep her quiet about a theft committed at Northwell. Since Stacy is now deceased, with no children, who is going to solve her problem? It's almost as bad for incarcerated plaintiffs or patients who are institutionalized. They can't exactly make a field trip to the county clerk's office.
Tell me again why I need a lawyer to do this.
I discussed the problem of docket doxing with the New York State Attorney General's office in 2020 on a recorded call, but the official, who identified himself only as Alex, amazingly told me it wasn't a problem because in his view, nobody uses social security numbers anymore.
I don't know if you're aware, but social security numbers are being changed, and the numbers mean nothing except to social security people now. The new numbers mean nothing. A lot of the records are not part of the case that gets put on a shelf that people can look at. A lot of these files, these numbers are redacted so that these numbers are not viewed with other information that is allowed to be viewed.
Well, I'm telling you, they haven't been redacted. That's the problem.
Okay, you're going to have to take this up with the New York State Unified Court System.
I've taken it up with them, and they've been extremely slow.
Sorry, but there's nothing we can do.
Who is your supervisor?
I'm sorry, I am the supervisor.
My office is committed to protecting the rights of crime victims and their families.
Whether it is done for gamesmanship or financial gain, docket doxing is unethical and illegal, especially in medical malpractice cases where plaintiffs are already suffering. Some plaintiffs are minors, and children are often mentioned in their parents' cases. If you can't think of another reason to care, think of the children. What can victims, their loved ones, and interested parties do? Check your docket, download, and save it. If you haven't filed a case yet, read up on the laws that protect you. Talk to your lawyer. If you do not have one, contact the chief clerk of your county. Ask judges to seal your confidential records. File grievances with the New York State Attorney Grievance Committees, other state or local government, your elected representatives, bar associations, law enforcement such as the FBI, and the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Demand refunds from attorneys and the court system. Sign up for an identity theft protection service like LifeLock. Share your story with us. And please, share this video. Thank you. And if you are a litigator, please contact us. We are still finding more plaintiffs while we wait for the courts to take their heavy finger off of our mute button. And we need your help.